Family Supports Program provides funding for needed goods and services to over 3,000 families and individuals annually. This funding is made possible because of a county-wide property tax levy. At Cuyahoga DD, we recognize that this funding gives much needed support to those of you providing care in your home to your son, daughter, or other family member with a developmental disability. I'm happy to share with you that over the past few years, Cuyahoga DD has strategically budgeted additional funding in our Family Supports Program in the following ways. We removed family income limitations so that now all families qualify for family supports regardless of income. We removed strict requirements that items purchased through the Family Supports Program be adaptive, so families can now use these funds more broadly. We expanded eligibility to adults age 18 and over who live on their own, in other words, not with a family. And most recently, for 2022, we've increased the available allocation by $500 per eligible individual. I am proud of these changes and sincerely hope that you are able to benefit from them. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the Northeast Ohio Network, or NEON, for their assistance with administering the Family Supports Program on behalf of Cuyahoga DD. Thank you for your attendance this evening, and I hope you enjoy the program. I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker, Janice Phillips. Janice is our contract services supervisor and has worked at the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities since 2013. She oversees our Family Supports Program and currently sits on the Cuyahoga County Advisory Committee for Persons with Disabilities. Janice has enjoyed her many years of work supporting families and individuals, both during her time at Cuyahoga DD and prior to coming to us. And she looks forward to continuing this important work. Tonight, she will be sharing important information on how families and individuals can benefit from the Cuyahoga DD Family Supports Program. Once again, thank you for attending, and I'd like to turn it over to Janice.
Thanks so much, Kelly. And thanks everybody who's here tonight. We're so very happy to have you. We really recognize how important your time is, and it's very valuable to us. And we hope that you gain some knowledge tonight and we answer some questions you might have. Stephanie and Janet, I believe, will be assisting this evening with our PowerPoint presentation. If you wouldn't mind pulling that up, I'd be ever so grateful. Thanks so much. So as Kelly mentioned, we are very proud of the things we're able to do with the funds that have been allocated for our Family Supports Program. We certainly recognize and appreciate the vital supports that families provide to people with developmental disabilities who live at home with them. And we want to help in this caregiving role by providing funding for goods and services that are available for our program. This evening, we will cover the application process, services and supports that are available in detail, and we'll spend a little bit more of a focus on planning for summer fun activities because we understand that the time to plan for that is right now. Next slide, please. So as Kelly had mentioned in the introduction, we at the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities partner with the Northeastern Ohio Network Council of Governments to administer our Family Supports Program. So you will hear the mention of NEON throughout this presentation due to their administrative support role for our locally funded Family Support Service Program. Next slide, please. So just to talk a little bit about eligibility, because Family Supports is a program of the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, in order to be eligible for the program, individuals must be eligible for Cuyahoga DD services. If you're uncertain regarding your eligibility or your loved one's eligibility, please give our eligibility line a call. We can drop that number in the chat if anyone needs it later. People who who are not eligible for the program are those that have another funding source or support to assist them in having their needs met, but we certainly want to make sure everybody's needs are met. So individuals who are not eligible for the program would include people who are on a Medicaid home and community-based waiver, as that waiver can assist them in meeting their needs. People who have an ongoing support administrator can work directly with that support administrator to discuss planning to meet their needs through the individual service plan planning process. People who live in an intermediate care facility would be able to work with their intermediate care facility to have their needs met, and those individuals in foster care would not be eligible. Again, they would have someone to assist with meeting their needs in another way. So in order to enroll in the program, we start with the application process. In 2020, we made some great changes to our application, and our Secure Family Supports Program application is now available on our website. We found that families find the process to be much easier. The turnaround times are quicker, and we're avoiding the delays and slowdowns with postal mail. If your child or family member is under the age of 18, you will need to enter last year's taxable income information for your household when completing the application. So it's always good to have that on hand before hopping online to get the application in. Let's hop into where our application is located for those who may not know. Next slide, please. So in order to access the application from our website, you can go straight to this link, click on the Apply for Services and Family Supports Program tab. Alternately, you can find the application and a different additional program information right from our Family Support Service page on our website, and we've included the link in this PowerPoint. Those who attend this presentation will get a copy of the PowerPoint to follow, and that way you can easily access these links, but you can always give us a call if you have questions or need support. After you submit the quick application, it will be reviewed and processed, and you'll receive a notification to the email that you provide in the application. For people who don't have an email, we will have the information mailed to your home address. If approved, the notification will include information regarding our program, the program guidelines, and a letter outlining your family's annual allocation amount. We've included a phone number that you can reach Cuyahoga DD Family Supports Program here in case you need some questions answered as you're going through the app, or if you really need someone to help enter that on your behalf, we're happy to help with that process. The annual allotment amounts for anybody over the age of 18 are now $1,500 per year. And under the age of 18, as I had mentioned previously, the annual allotment amount is based on your family's taxable income information. The good news is, as Kelly had mentioned earlier, regardless of your income, everybody is now eligible for something. For people who might have been enrolled a few years ago, they may not be familiar with that. So that's really great news, and we're very proud of that change. And even more exciting, this year in 2022, individuals who enroll will have an additional $500 added to their allocation award. We're very excited. We really think that can help a lot of people, and are so grateful that we were able to offer that this year. If there are multiple children in your household that were eligible, they will each receive an allotment. An important thing to remember is our program runs on a calendar year, so an annual allotment will not carry over into the following year. And that's another really important piece to remember, that we have to apply each year for the program that we're eligible. So if your child was enrolled in 2021, it's important to go ahead and reapply for the 2022 year. Very important to do that because taxable income information can change year to year, And sometimes people find that their annual allocation amount might go up. Next slide, please. So camp assistance is a hot topic right now. It is time to start planning for camp and other summer recreation. I know it's hard to believe considering that it is March, but summer is around the corner. Next slide, please. So how do I access funding for camp? Once your child's enrolled, you can proceed with making the funding request by registering your child for a camp that meets their needs. We have a camp authorization form that can be completed and returned to Neon. That form will be provided to both the camp and the family after it's reviewed and approved to indicate prior approval for the camp. And notifying Cuyahoga DD Family Supports Program if your child will not be attending the requested camp by contacting Neon is very important. We really want to make sure that the funds can be reallocated to your child's account if you need to cancel for some reason. So doing that in advance is really helpful. And as I had mentioned earlier, prior approval will be provided after we receive that camp authorization form, review it, and approve it. So it's important that you are making the request before camp starts so that we can best assist you. It also helps you to know how much funding is approved and available. Next slide, please. The camp forms that I just mentioned, including those camp guidelines and that camp authorization form, can be found on Neon's website. This is the direct link. And as mentioned previously, it's really time to start planning for summer camp now. Camps tend to fill up. We know that we really want to help you get your needs met. And so get in, get early if you can. If you have questions, the great news is the Summer and Beyond directory provided by the Educational Service Center State Support Team 3 has already been released. You can find that on our website. You can find it on their website, and you can also find it on Neon's website. If you have questions, can't find it, need guidance, give us a call. Families also tend to speak with other parent groups and their school districts for resources for camp as well. Certainly, if you find a camp that is not provided in that Summer and Beyond directory, you can choose to request funding for that camp. We want kiddos to participate in a camp that works best for them. Next slide, please. Rec and leisure is a year-round thing, but certainly an important part of planning for summer as well. So how do we request funding for rec and leisure through family supports? Rec and leisure is something that we define as an activity that allows the individual to actively engage in their community. It's very important to us to make this experience something that works for the child. We have changed the parameters of our program over the last couple of years. In 2020, we removed the adaptive requirement for recreation. We found that it's been very beneficial to the families who have taken advantage of it. Children are participating in activities such as swimming lessons, opportunities at their local rec center, art classes, gym memberships, and self-advocacy opportunities, just to name a few. It's really important to us that we offer services in this way. It's in line with our mission of all means all, and for children to participate in activities of their choice in an inclusive environment in their community. When requesting funding for camp, what should be included? The provider name and contact info, the lesson membership type, the frequency and duration, and the total cost. That's good information to have available when you reach out to Neon, our partner agency, to make the request. If we haven't worked with that vendor before or that community-based recreation provider before, we'll contact them and work with them to request that they accept our funding for the service and support. And the provider will invoice Neon directly for the approved recreation. Something important to keep in mind is we have to pay providers directly. So if you're planning to use Family Supports funds for a rec experience, please do not pay up front. Please make the request. If you're having a hard time navigating, give us a call. We're happy to help. Special equipment is a service that many families tap into through our Family Support Service program. Let's talk a little bit about how we get that need met. Funding of specialized equipment is approved to achieve a therapeutic outcome, is recommended by a therapist such as an occupational therapist, physical therapist, and speech language pathologist. That therapist submits the equipment request form with all the required documents. So that's an equipment request form that includes some assessment information tied to an outcome. If you have a therapist that you're working in the community or school district, they certainly can request a specialized equipment. Many of our school districts do. Many community-based providers are familiar with the forms, but they always can give us a call if they have questions or need support. Some examples of adaptive or specialized equipment include things like weighted blankets, adaptive utensils, plates, communication devices, and therapy balls. Those are just to name a few. We have many different types of specialized equipment requests every day. Typical toys and medical equipment are not items that are covered as specialized equipment. Medical equipment is something that can be funded in a different way, often through insurance or other resources. If you have a question regarding specialized equipment and how to get your child's needs met, please give us a call. And if your child is not working with a community-based rec provider or a provider in the school district, we are happy to make an ancillary service referral based on your child's needs so that we can get that need met. Next slide, please. We also are able to offer a service for infants and toddlers. That service is offered for kiddos under the age of 3. And that includes therapies such as occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy that are not covered by insurance. Can we move to, for children over the age of 3, those therapies will not be funded through our Family Support Service program, but they can often be met in another way, such as medical insurance based on medical need. If your child has an intermittent need and requires an assessment, please give us a call. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, we're happy to help in any way we can. Next slide, please. Specialized nutrition is a service and support through the Family Support Service program. Let's talk a little bit about what specialized nutrition looks like. It's nutrition that complements a meal and is required to meet daily caloric requirements. In order to access the service, we do ask for a physician order with a corresponding diagnosis be provided. Examples of specialized equipment include things like Thicket, Ensure, so those thickeners or dietary shakes, but those are just a couple of examples. What specialized nutrition does not include is food items, so things like keto food or gluten-free food, baby formula, or over-the-counter vitamins. Incontinence supplies is a service that we have offered through our Family Supports program for quite some time and find many people benefit. In order to access the incontinence supplies service, we do require a physician's prescription certifying incontinence. We only require that one time a year. So each year that your child enrolls, if you could have that ready, that'd be great. If a physician's prescription is not available, we can talk about other forms of verification, such as information from a MyChart. These are supplies that might be available for children over the age of 3. And they're available when there isn't another funding source, such as Medicaid or insurance, to meet the need. Neon assists with ordering these supplies. So after we get that prescription, you can make a request for what you need. things such as pull-ups, wipes, gloves, incontinence pads, and plastic sheets are some of the items that might be covered under this incontinence supplies service. Those supplies will be delivered directly to the family home. And one thing I should mention is that we ask that families are communicating sizes and quantities with us. If we have an order that's in place and sizes or quantities change, it's really important to reach out and let us know. We are able to have items returned once we've already funded them. Respite care is a service that we are also very proud of through our Family Support Service program. Respite is something that might look a little different through family supports. So let's talk about what respite is and how do we request it. It's defined as an occasional break for a family. Types of respite care providers within our program include the family selected provider is one option. That's something that does look a little different in family supports. It's unique in that that provider does not require certification through the state. So it might be a family friend, it might be a trusted relative who does not live in the home and is not a parent. Many times we find that families have a great connection to a family friend, somebody who they really trust, somebody who really knows their child well. Certainly though, you can use a certified provider. Certified providers through the Family Supports program, we have a list that's available that can be used as a reference. So certainly you can use either one of these options. We have some guidelines that are available that outline rates for our Family Supports program respite. That is something that can be negotiated between the family and the provider. Emergency respite can also be an option through our program under unique circumstances when families have utilized all of their respite and an emergency situation comes up. We ask that you reach out to us and discuss the situation. If we were looking at emergency respite, there are documentation requirements. So for example, if it's in a medical emergency, we would ask for documentation related to that emergency, and we would talk you through that at that time. Home modifications. Home modifications are a specialized service that's offered through the Family Support Service program. The funding is not related to that annual allocation amount, and we'll go in depth in that here in a bit. But first, I wanted to go over some examples of what home modifications might look like that we would consider through our program. Home modifications are things that are based on an assessed safety need. So here we're looking at some home modifications based on a physical support need. Things like modifications in the home to help somebody access their home, as the bottom lower left picture, something that a person can get in and out of their home. We see here in the bottom right corner, a modified bathroom, a walk-in shower. Up in the upper right, a stair glide. And then something as simple as grab bars are things that could be considered for home modifications. We also will consider modifications based on behavioral safety support needs, which we'll look at in pictures in the next slide. So things such as safety covers here we see on the stove, chimes, or some simple locks that might be installed. So let's talk a little bit about how we would assess that need and what the process of requesting a home modification looks like. Adaptive home modifications might be requested based upon the recommendation of an appropriate therapist. So for those slides we looked at first with the grab bars and the access to a home, those are things that likely would be recommended by somebody's physical therapist, possibly an occupational therapist, to help meet that physical need, safety need in the home. The pictures we saw on that second slide are examples of something that we may see based on the recommendation of a behavioral health specialist. So one of our behavioral therapists may come out to your home, talk with your family about a need, and if appropriate, may make recommendations for home modifications, such as those behavioral home modifications to meet that safety need. Home mods look a little different from the other services in our family supports program in that the process might take a little bit longer because we have an evaluation process we start with. We get the therapist involved. They're working to meet the need. You know, it's really important that we do it right for a home mod, right? This is something that's permanent in your home. So after the family meets with the therapist, we would get an evaluation, review that evaluation. We have some home modification coordinators that are involved, and the project would go out for competitive bidding. And then finally, installation. For any home mod that we might do in a family's home, we would need the homeowner to sign off on a home modification agreement form. These are all steps that we would walk you through one by one. So it would start really with a conversation on need and then move over to that therapy evaluation. And as I had mentioned earlier, the total amount of any home modification would be deducted from a separate fund, which we call the lifetime max, and it's not included in the annual allotment amount. Here I've included my phone number for questions regarding home modifications. And if you, at any time, if you have any questions or want to talk over a need, just give me a call. So we've talked about the services and supports available through the Family Supports Program, and now I just wanted to briefly touch on the explanation of benefits that would be provided to your family anytime funds are spent from the annual allocation amount. If your family has a request for funding, after that request is processed, you will receive an estimate of benefits in the mail the following month. It will list what has been spent and the remaining balance in your child's account. A few things to consider regarding the explanation of benefits and understanding how much funding has been spent from your annual allocation amount include provider billing and some other factors. Until we have processed billing for the service or resource, an estimate of benefits would not go out. So for example, if a recreation provider provides a service in January and that bill is not received by Neon until March, your family would not get an estimate of benefits deducting that amount from your account until the month of April. So we always encourage our families to be mindful of the cost of what they're spending so that they can plan to use their benefits in the best way for their family. Certainly, if you ever have any questions regarding invoices that have been received or your balance, you can give us a call. Next slide, please. Here we've just included our contact information. I know we presented a lot of information tonight, and certainly there may be questions at the end of this presentation I'm hoping that we can answer. But if questions come up later, I want to make sure that you can reach out and have those answered. And also we wanted to make sure that we had the links to the website that we've referenced throughout the presentation. You'll see both Cuyahoga DD's website information and the contact information for our partners at Neon. I want to thank everybody so much. Again, I know we covered a lot of information. We appreciate your patience. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you very much. We will be stopping our recording at this time so that we will allow folks to ask some questions. I know that Janice shared some really great information